I just love that.
He'll yell at you if you're.
Word.
Coffee
I
shop
know.
ambiance.
Oh my God, definitely.
Welcome to our first live in-person Humpday exchange. Woohoo!
Woo-hoo.
Our hosts Elizabeth and Michael are here with Representative Andy Fugate, and
Yeah, we
we are
are.
so happy to have you here. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Representative, and what got you started in all this stuff?
Sure. So I represent Del City, which is where I grew up. Dad retired here to Oklahoma when I was 10, and I lived just a couple of blocks away from where my parents' house was when I was a kid. Was elected in 2018, have served now for 7 years. Last 5 years have been the floor leader for the House Democrats. Which sounds really pretentious, but what it basically means is I help everybody else with their homework. So, I was that kid in school, by the way. I am passionate about better government, and so I ask lots of questions, but unlike some other folks, most of the time when I'm asking questions, I just want to make sure that all of us are understanding what we're doing well enough that we're making good decisions. Because let's face it, if we screw up, make a mistake, 4 million people have to live with it until we fix it. So.
Well, welcome and thank you.
Yay.
Start off asking him questions.
Hey, Bill, do you want to kick it off?
I can. So some of the things that you were involved in with, like the House approved consent decree to settle a lawsuit alleging Oklahoma wasn't providing timely court-ordered competency restoration treatments for dependents declared incompetent to stand trial. What are we doing? What are we doing with that now?
Well, right now it's in the hands of the agency to execute on the court order. It looks like they're having some trouble with that.
So is there something that us as your constituents do?
To kind of bring focus to this, it's always good to work the relationships that kind of bring focus to this. It's always good to work the relationships that you have with people in the legislature, and reaching out to the governor's office as well. I'll sidebar on that real quick and just say that if you don't have, step one is knowing who your legislators are that represent you in the House and Senate. And if you don't know who that is, you can go to the okhouse.gov website. We have a place there where you can put in your street address, and that'll tell you who the elected representatives are that represent you at both the state level and at the federal level. So that relationship starts with knowing who they are. You go from there to just paying attention to the things that we're working on, the things that we do on your behalf. I promise you, even for the most strident kind of what's the right way to say this? I don't want to say something inappropriate about my colleagues, but people who what's the right way to say this? I don't want to say something inappropriate about my colleagues, but people who may think very, very differently than the way you do, you'll find there are still things that they do, and you think, yeah, that's not bad. The reality is, as much as 80% of the work we do is nearly unanimous. So look for those things that we're doing that you agree with, and let us know that you think it's a good idea. And that helps build that relationship so that in the future when you need to call and say, hey, Rep Fugate, you're being goofy on this, we know that it's not just somebody who's calling with an axe to grind. You've been paying attention, and you're trying to help me think about things from a different perspective. And that matters. So.
Awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
Stay in contact and keep them on their toes for sure. I think that's a good plan. I want to shift a little bit away from that. You and Senator Julia Kurt recently wrapped up on a legislative study on homeowner insurance affordability. What's your plan to translate that study into real reform?
Well, so I'm going to give you the long answer because it deserves a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
We have an affordability crisis happening in homeowner insurance here in Oklahoma. We lead the nation in homeowner insurance rates, not a place where we want to be top 10. And there's been a lot of discussion over the last couple of years about why that is, with people pointing fingers at Oklahoma's weather conditions. And I just got to say that there is no industry that is more of a believer in climate change than the insurance industry. They absolutely 100% believe it. Their actuarial tables all reflect the reality of the changing climate here in the United States. As an old project manager, I spent all of my career leading technology for companies here in Oklahoma. I'm a big believer in creating a problem definition that allows people out of their homes, that is making it nearly impossible for insurance agents to sell products, that makes it difficult for first-time home buyers to buy a house, and we're dealing with the reality of climate change. And so how do we manage insurance rates here in Oklahoma, keep an eye on them, make sure that they're not being crazy with those dollars, and yet at the same time we don't want to chase off insurance companies, and we don't want to price people out. If I go to people and say, you know what, you have to do all of these upgrades to your home, well, that's just transferring how they're spending their money from homeowners insurance over to all the upgrades on their house to turn it into Fort Knox. So that's not really the way to fix the problem either. Where we have settled, and it was exciting for me to hear the insurance industry and the commissioner say, one, we don't have a problem with lawsuits here in Oklahoma. So if I hear people say, you know what, it's all the lawyers making all the money, I got an insurance study where the insurance people said, no, that's not the case. We have our insurance commissioner saying that what they do in Texas, the Texas model, is not something that's going to turn us into socialists and all the scary words. What Texas does is they do a review after rates have been filed to make sure that the rates are really supported by all the actuarial stuff that's also presented with it. Oddly enough, Texas has lower rates than we do, even though they have the same weather conditions we do, and worse. I mean, when's the last time we had a Category 5 hurricane hit Oklahoma? We haven't. So that's, and then the other thing, and I realize I'm probably going longer than you wanted on this answer.
Nope, you're good.
This is your hour.
Insurance is that kind of weird product. You think about it, it's almost different than any other product that you buy, because what you're buying is not a product. You're buying a promise, right? A promise that at some point in the future, when you need it, they're going to be there to take care of you. You're going to be in the good hands or whatever, right? But when people buy insurance, the decision is made on two things. What does it cost? And how good will you make me feel about the payment process? It's that insurance agent guy. He's a good guy. He always makes me feel good when I walk in the office. That doesn't tell you anything about how well they process claims, because it's not the insurance agents that processes claims. It doesn't tell you anything at all about how often that insurance company has been sued. It doesn't tell you anything at all about how often that insurance company has been sued, how often they just deny claims, right? And all of that stuff is really the promise that you're buying. And we've got the insurance commissioner saying, you're right, people need to know that so they can make good choices. We're going to start trying to collect that stuff, perhaps publish it quarterly. And I think that's a huge win for Oklahomans.
Perfect. Yeah.
Does any of that roll over into like our car insurance or our health insurance.
In the future, perhaps. But you know, framing those problems to solve, it's easy to bite off more than you can chew. And the reality is right now, homeowner insurance is killing us. Car insurance is arguably just as bad, but we had to start someplace, and so we chose homeowner insurance.
That kind of touches into what I was about to ask. How do you plan to respond to cuts in sooner care and healthcare funding that were raised in recent town halls?
Well, everybody who is paying attention, who's watching this tonight, needs to be raising Cain with your elected officials in Washington, D.C. I keep hearing that, members of Congress are saying, well, we can delay this decision. We just need to pass a clean continuing resolution so we can get back to work, right? The reality is people are making health insurance decisions today. This is open enrollment, right? And if you're looking at your insurance and saying, I don't know whether it's going to cost me $400 a month or $1,600 a month, and the way it looks right now, it's going to cost me $1,600 a month. I can't afford that. So I don't do health insurance, right? So if Congress comes up at the end of the year and says, oh, by the way, we've changed our mind, we're going to don't do health insurance, right? So if Congress comes up at the end of the year and says, oh, by the way, we've changed our mind, we're going to actually provide that subsidy, it's too late. You've already made that choice to skip insurance. So what happens when you get sick, right? Yeah. What happens when you need to go to the hospital? You declare medical bankruptcy. Yeah, it's horrible. So people need to be on the phones right now calling their congressional members and saying, hey, you guys need to fix this problem. And if that means not passing a continuing resolution until you do, that's fine. But the problem is today.
Correct.
Now, would that be at a federal level that you're talking about calling at a federal?
It is.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but I would also call your local state representatives because they need to know and understand. So I'm going to talk a little bit further about this because the problem is this, right? Earlier this year, Congress passed the big whatever you want to call it bill. And they pieced it together like Frankenstein, the way Congress normally does. I need to add whatever you want to call it bill. And they pieced it together like Frankenstein, the way Congress normally does. I need to add this in to get this person to vote for it, need to add this person in. But the bill was so universally bad, they couldn't even get 51 senators to vote for it, right? They had to bring in the Vice President of the United States. 3 Republicans voted against that big whatever bill that you want to call, right? And now they're faced with a situation that they have to deal with the mess they created in a situation where they need 60 votes, and they can't get it. And then you have a president who likes to tell everybody how wonderful a negotiator is, who can't negotiate his way out of a paper bag. It's embarrassing how humiliated he gets on the international scene. Goes over to, Vladimir Putin, you need to end this war over here with Ukraine. It's going to take 2 weeks or, whatever it is. Yeah, right? Everybody knows it's just a joke. He gets mad at the coffee-producing countries, and guess what? Now we're paying double for coffee because he can't negotiate anything. And to make that point, it's easy to forget what happens in politics. But you go back to December 2024, after the election was over. Joe Biden had lost the election. He's a lame duck president. We had this kind of shutdown. And it was right there on the books. Donald Trump, who's the president-elect, says to Congress, you guys don't need to vote for this. We need to shut it down. And Joe Biden, who had 36 years of understanding how to negotiate with the Senate, sat down with Congress, and guess what? He came up with a compromise that 85 senators voted for. That's true leadership. That's a guy who knows how to negotiate. But this kind of cross your arms and say we're going to punish the American people. Right. We're going to shut down our parks. We're going to shut down our military bases. People aren't going to get Social Security. That's just asinine. And then to have a president of the United States say, you know what, we're going to go punish Democrats. Right? You represent every person in the United States. You don't represent Republicans. And it's shameful to see a president who thinks that his job is retribution.
Can I ask something?
Yeah, go
Or
ahead.
mention something?
Yeah.
So today on Facebook, there was one of your colleagues, Jim Olson, I believe, who told one of his constituents that they did not have an opportunity, a legitimate leg to stand on because they weren't a believer of Christ. They, Bible wasn't their end all be all. There was like 4 different points.
Yes.
How do we bring back some normalcy or some competency in that when you're elected, you're not elected just from, your party,
Yeah.
right? And you're not elected just from your party to represent only your party. So how do we help remind, not elected just from your party to represent only your party? So how do we help remind your colleagues that we live in a democratic republic, right? And some of us,
We don't live in a
especially
theocracy.
this state,
Yeah.
right? So, do you have any advice for how to combat some of that?
Well, there's so much going around in my head. Let me start with something that I laugh about, and it might get me in trouble with some of my Christian conservative constituents. But on the swearing-in day at the state capitol, it's customary for members to stand up and provide a short little speech, right? And I was just laughing in my head, hearing all of my colleagues stand up and thank the Lord Jesus for putting them into this office. And the reality is the people in your district voted for you. And they may have been listening to Jesus, or they may have not been listening to Jesus. And what if they got it wrong? Here you are believing Jesus put you in there, but guess what? Maybe it was the devil who convinced all of your voters to vote for you, right? It's the ultimate in hubris that to believe that somehow I am chosen by God. Makes me think of the Blues Brothers. I'm on a mission from God, right?
Well, I was thinking back to the kings, right?
Yeah.
Kings are by divine right.
Yes.
And we don't have any kings in America.
No. Yeah, we don't have any kings. Now, more specifically to what you were talking about, in Representative Olson's defense, I'll start there. The person who reached out to him was not a constituent.
Okay,
Um,
good to clarify.
And, oftentimes members in the legislature choose to not really go too far down a path with somebody who's not a constituent because they know that it gets them in trouble, or it can get them in trouble. In this particular case, he was, I've not spoken to him about this at all. Seeing some questions was, I've not spoken to him about this at all. Seeing some questions with a biblical basis, and Jim styles himself as a biblical scholar, and so he felt an opportunity to challenge somebody on their own religious beliefs. So I don't know that Jim necessarily puts up a religious barrier and says only people who believe this particular religion are people that I will talk to. But he does carry a very narrow and I would argue not biblically supported viewpoint whenever he steps onto the floor. So.
Sorry.
So I do. So, so when we talk about like Medicaid and now the Department of Mental Health in Oklahoma City or Oklahoma, ODMHSAS. So, not even quite sure how to word this. So, we have a big Medicaid push in Oklahoma. A lot due to ODMH not paying their bills, right? So for the past year, they haven't paid any of their reimbursements. What is there a plan for when the Medicaid reimbursements start not happening? Do we have a plan for the state of Oklahoma to care for our mental health and substance abuse? And that's from childhood on. I know our youth is really big right now, but that population is so vulnerable. Do we as a state have plans for that?
So there are folks who are working on that out at the Capitol. Mark Lawson, my Republican colleague, who I think represents Sapulpa,
Okay.
is hip deal of that. More power to him. Mark is a thoughtful individual. We as a body will be facing some very difficult decisions. There's a couple things to this. So Medicaid, the general formula for reimbursements for Medicaid will not be changing until after the November 2026 election. They wanted to delay that pain as long as they possibly could.
Correct.
After the election, because they knew that if they made the pain before that, they would all lose their seats. It's a legislative trick. Now that's not that's separate from the 300,000 Oklahomans who are losing their subsidies to go purchase health insurance. The issue with ODMH SAS is kind of twofold. The historic practice under the previous directors for a number of programs has been to kind of spend more than they were allocated,
Right.
and then come back at the end and make it up, knowing that oftentimes they have more kind of left over and they can kind of carve it up at the end. That didn't happen apparently this time around, and they had a lot of, I was going to use the word profligate, I'm just going to say crazy, spending that was going on under Ali Friesen, who seemed to believe that the fundamental problem we had with mental health in Oklahoma is that we did not have enough managers.
Very top heavy.
Yeah, you go walk into a Walmart, right, and they don't have any cashier lanes open, and you walk over them and talk to the manager, and the manager says, the problem we have here is we need more managers in this store, right? No. But that's basically what was going on. And you had a governor who stood shoulder to shoulder with her saying, I'm backing my appointee. You look at the governor's track record of people that he has backed. He's appointed, and it begins with Ryan Walters, for crying out loud.
Right.
And the list is long. Jerry Winchester, when he was at tourism, and all the
yeah.
Swadley's debacle
Forgot
that we
about
had
that.
over there. Shelley Zumwalt and all the challenges that she wound up with.
Yeah.
So you have the governor backing Ali Friesen. They're continuing to spend money like sailors on managers instead of putting it out to help people on the streets. The legislature took things into our own hands. We have a small little section when we changed the law in 2019 that said for certain appointees, we had the ability to do a no confidence vote. We did that. Takes 2/3 in both chambers. We removed Ali Friesen. The governor says, okay, I need to put somebody else in place. He picks retired Rear Admiral Greg Slavonic. Greg is a good guy. He was a former Undersecretary of the Navy for the United States, and he's also pretty savvy. He knows how this game is played. And so I think, just me reading the tea leaves, and I've not had a conversation with the good Rear Admiral, I think he intentionally made this as painful as it could possibly be, knowing that that would be the way to get the legislature to respond. So the question is, what will we do? And in the meantime, people of Oklahoma are in the crosshairs. At a time when we still lead the nation in domestic violence, we're number 2 in men killing women. We're going to have one Oklahoman kill themselves every 10 hours. A leading cause of death for teens ages 10 to 17 is killing themselves. It's not a time to be playing with mental health, Oklahoma.
No, but you say that I actually did hear today that.
Oklahoma.
No, but you say that I actually did hear today that the 9. So the Veterans Suicide Hotline has lost people, but 988 just lost a bunch.
Yeah.
So,
If you're a veteran here in the state of Oklahoma, you are 2.5 times more likely to commit suicide than the person off the street.
Because when we talk about, suicidal ideations and like the PTSD that goes with it and the depression and all of the things, I don't think people realize like the things like as a mental health care worker, like it's really difficult, right? When we sent our people over there and now they come over here and we mess them up, but we don't want to do anything about it. So that's kind of how I feel.
We're going to be in a difficult session coming up. No doubt about it. You have an economy that's slowing. It's hard for people. A difficult session coming up. No doubt about it. You have an economy that's slowing. It's hard for people to find jobs. It is the hardest it's been to find a job since 2009, the last time we had a huge recession, excluded COVID.
Right.
And at the same time, we're losing tons of federal dollars. In the 4 years before COVID, the state of Oklahoma brought in about $117 billion in federal money. That's over a 4-year period. The 4 years, including COVID, it jumped to $191 billion. So 74 billion with a B, more dollars in that 4-year period. And those dollars are going away. All the COVID relief money is going away. All the additional dollars for matching in places is going away. We now have subsidies that are going away. We've got Medicaid that's going to be falling off. And in our infinite wisdom, we followed the governor's path and a half to disaster plan. And we're sawing off little by one of the 3 legs of income that the state has, with personal income taxes. So, yeah. And we have an election. So everybody will be grandstanding. We'll spend more time on culture war nonsense than we will actually solving the problems for the people of Oklahoma.
Okay.
But hey, milk is cheap.
I'm like, is it?
Milk,
Is it?
for all who are watching, milk is actually one of those that is price supported by the federal government, which is why milk did not follow eggs and did not follow meat and everything else. So,
Noted. We're like, is it?
Can you explain your work and what this program is, Oklahoma Close-Up, and how important it is for you?
Oklahoma Close-Up is why I'm at the Capitol. So when I was in high school, my parents didn't have any money, and we had a program at the school affiliated with the National Close-Up program where kids could take a trip to Washington, D.C. You spend a week in D.C. The idea is to let a kid see how Congress, the White House, and everything else works from the inside. You get a close-up look at it. I really wasn't interested in that side of it, but like I said, parents didn't have money, and I thought, man, this would be a way for me to go to Washington, D.C. and see all the cool things, and they helped you raise money to do this. And so I went on the trip my junior year, and holy smokes, I sat in George Bush's, then Vice President's office. We got a briefing at Georgetown University from the chief negotiator who was negotiating the current nuclear arms treaty with the Soviet Union, talking to us about how all that stuff works. It was just mind-blowing, the things that we had access to. So I went back my senior year, and then the following year, the teacher that had taken me my senior year said, Andy, we have a program kind of like this in Oklahoma, targeting high school kids who want to see the state capitol in the same fashion. And he said, would you be interested? And I said, oh, absolutely. And so I got started doing that. I spent every year from 1985 to my election in 2018 working as a facilitator, helping high school kids understand what goes on at the state capitol, what the process is, how a bill becomes a law in Oklahoma, because it's different than what happens at the federal level. Where does the Supreme Court play? All the things. And so Oklahoma Close-Up, the Close-Up program itself, were instrumental in me coming into office and becoming the floor leader. It's unheard of to have somebody become floor leader after just 2 years in office.
Right.
And when Emily Virgin, who was the former leader of the Democratic caucus, came to me in my second year, she said, David Perryman, our floor leader, has decided to not run again. I want you to be the floor leader. And I looked at her and said, Emily, I was thinking 6-8 years from now. I'm not thinking today. And she said, Andy, there is no person in this building on either side of the aisle that knows the process better than you do. And I said, okay. A gulp.
Do it.
And yeah, and if you look around now, it's a little unnerving to realize I am the longest serving member of leadership in my role in either chamber, in either party.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In my role in either chamber, in either party.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So are you, so just real quick though, so for 2026, are you running again for, is that correct?
Are you looking for me to make an announcement?
Well, I mean,
Everybody else.
I'm not trying,
Exclusive?
I have not
trying to
filed
like.
my SO1 yet, but yes.
All right.
I am running
All right.
again in 2026.
I'm happy to hear
God
that.
willing,
Yeah,
the
I know.
creek don't rise. Based on the last numbers, 62% of the people in my district are happy, the other 38% are not.
It's all right, it's all right. We just didn't know if you had termed out yet, or,
No, God willing, the creek don't rise. I term out in 2030.
nice.
You know,
Okay.
I'm looking forward to.
That's what someone said in the comments. It said,
Actually, no, because you know what? I'm going to be voting for a second term of Governor Munson.
oh,
Ooh.
yes.
Yep.
I know, right. That's fine. That's fine.
We'll let Dr. Cook this time.
Yeah.
Word.
That's a great answer.
Right. We'll take it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I get
Do
to
you have any
2030 or,
questions?
or
What time is it?
2028, whatever it
If
is.
you want to ask that one.
What time is it?
Medicaid,
Yeah,
I
assuming
don't
we still have elections
quite
and things.
understand it, so it might be good for you
Probably
to-
just hang it up. I really enjoy teaching, you know, working with kids. I'm a jazz trombone player, love teaching that.
I saw that. We need to get you to come play. I was reading
Isn't
that
it?
on
I think
you
so.
on that jazz stuff. That's some pretty cool stuff
Yeah.
that you're doing in
Yeah.
Midvale area, it looks like.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the?
I don't like
it
the
looks like
lag.
you. Is it a program? Is it, because you're doing like.
So, yeah, I've played with a number of bands here in the greater Oklahoma City area. I'm a co-founder of, and they're now defunct, but the Middale Jazz Orchestra. I got together with a couple of my classmates, and we wanted to play the kind of music that we all enjoyed playing, and not just traditional dance band stuff from the 30s and 40s. And so that's what we did, raised a lot of money for the local school programs. So it was a labor of love for us. I was blessed at Del City High School to be in an absolutely amazing music program there. Roughly half the people in my jazz band program went on to play professionally, some of them all over the world. If you've been to the Disney theme parks, you've probably heard my colleague, my high school classmate Paul Stevens playing the trumpet. He's one of those who's played all over the world. My friend Vince Norman is a multi-Grammy winner, 9 years as a chief arranger for the U.S. Army, first call player not just here in Oklahoma but on the East Coast. They call him and fly him out to go play. Guys like that. I was there to bring the average down.
Nice. Yeah, I
But
think
it-
we saw that where you played the trombone. We thought,
Yeah.
oh, opening session in February. Jared Deck, Andy Fugate. Woo, woo. I'm just saying.
We already got our permit.
We did.
We sure did.
So we did an
Ahead of it.
octet, trombone
That's
octet
really good.
for
I'm curious about
COVID.
that, too.
So in 2021, as part of the anniversary remembrance, I got together with the trombone professor out at OU. He brought some of his graduate students, and he and 4 of his graduate students, and me and our daughter, my wife's and our daughter, and her husband, both of whom are absolutely terrific trombone players. It's humbling being the 3rd best trombone player in your family. But We sat on the, or stood on the steps of the Capitol
Oh,
and played
that's
octet
funny.
music as part of the memorial for the folks who've lost their lives to COVID.
But that was a
Yeah.
One of the things, let's see, one of the questions that was asked, with Medicaid being in the state constitution, what do you think might happen during the BBB cuts?
Well, yeah, that in my ideal world, the Congress will go back and revisit the awful decisions that they've made. Our members of Congress here in Oklahoma, if they don't lose their seats for voting the way they did to punish Oklahomans, then I'm sorry, then we've really had the wool pulled over our eyes. The legislature is going to have to figure out how to fund it, absent money coming from the federal government, because the Constitution says we have to do it. They will likely pull back on some things. I don't have a crystal ball, but in the time I've been in the legislature, we've tried to bring parity to mental health and physical health. And I suspect mental health will be pulled back because it's not required. Dentistry, we expanded the amount of dental care that people get
That's true.
under Sooner Care, and I suspect some of that will go away as well, just as we're trying to figure out where to trim. And that's a shame. Today's signature for poverty is poor dental care. And it's a scarlet A that people live with. And I was hopeful that as we were making these changes, that would begin to change in Oklahoma. The other thing is, we could have an amazing economy, and we could bring in all kinds of wonderful jobs, and yeah. The other thing is, we could have an amazing economy, and we could bring in all kinds of wonderful jobs, and yeah.
Ladybugs and daisies and rainbows.
Can we just make a commitment to stop bringing in foreign entities like Canoe, like foreign being, not from Oklahoma, coming in, we're giving them a whole bunch of money to come pillage our coffers? Can we just make a habit of not inviting
We're
those?
going to do the infrastructure one.
You know,
That's why I had it over
we
here,
have
so I
a
can see it.
United
I can't
Arab
see it, that's why I had it
Emirates
over here.
aluminum smelter coming in that's going to suck up a
What?
gazillion watts of
Where's
electricity
that going?
Is
up
that-
in the
is that
Tulsa
here?
area.
You see it?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Sorry, what?
So the
Something
yeah,
United Arab.
United Arab Emirates, they're what's UGE, I think is the the plan is to build a $4 billion aluminum smelter. It'll be one of the two. So there are two projects that are going right now. Here in Oklahoma, we didn't talk at all about Joe Biden's, what he did. There are two projects that are going right now. Here in Oklahoma, we didn't talk at all about Joe Biden's, what he did in his last year under the Green New Deal. So in the Ohio Valley Basin, there's a green energy, low environmental footprint aluminum smelting plant that's in the works, which is going to be comparable to what we have here in Oklahoma, assuming ours gets built. They will be two extremely high output aluminum production facilities. The difference being ours is going to be very hard on the environment, hard on the amount of electricity, the amount of water used. So once again, we're kind of taking advantage of Oklahoma. And unlike what Donald Trump is doing, when he shook down Intel and said, we're going to give you money, but we get 10% of the company, we won't own any of that aluminum company, even though we're paying $750 million for it.
Wow.
$750 million.
Yeah, $750 of
a foreign entity to come to our state.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Could we not use that for people here that want to do similar things? I'm just asking.
So I feel like this is going to go into this question that we have from the chat with infrastructure.
Okay.
So we have poor infrastructure, we've got poor roads, especially like in rural Oklahoma. How do we address that?
It's not an easy answer. I'm a believer, and there are a number of us on both sides of the aisle, that we need to do what we did 25 or 23 years ago. So if you cycle back to the early 2000s, Oklahoma's interstate roads and bridges were just a mess. We were bottom 10. And initially under Democrats, we put together the Roads Trust, ROADS Trust. And initially under Democrats, we put together the Roads Trust, ROADS Trust, which set aside money every year specifically for rebuilding bridges and put together this 8-year rebuild plan. And it's an ongoing rolling 8-year plan that the legislature really doesn't get to have much say on. And over the years, so the Democrats started it, but Republicans, to their credit, increased the amount of money that's going into it. And so we're winding up spending $575 million a year, a little over $500 million a year, working on our bridges and roads on the interstates. And we've reached a point now where we are indeed top 10 in roads and bridges on the interstate. The governor likes to crow about how we became top 10. Well, we were 11 when you got elected, dude, right? So, yay. And you didn't do a darn thing to get us to top 10. That started with Democrats in 2003 and Republicans over the years who've been increasing that. At the same time, that started with Democrats in 2003 and Republicans over the years who've been increasing that. At the same time, we haven't done anything similar with county roads and bridges, and so we are still bottom 10. I think we're number 45 in county roads and bridges. And so we need a similar plan for that. We do need to, and there's another piece of that. Not only are the bridges in such terrible shape, but we have thousands of miles of 2-lane roads that are marked at 60 and 70 miles an hour that don't have shoulders. And those are death traps for people who are, driving at night. They're getting a little drowsy. You don't get the little, boom, 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 boom. Think you just go off in a ditch and you're, and now you have no health care.
Or car insurance.
And there
Or
you
car
go.
insurance. Yes.
Hey, so I think we have a question from our studio audience. Hi.
So obviously, with all the stuff, the federal funds leaving, we have a bunch of savings accounts. Do we have enough in those savings accounts? And if we rerounded the money coming out of that to not cut our state input into critical, is there enough in those accounts to make up for it?
I mean,
And can they be used?
And
that
can they
way?
be used and the money be rerouted to critical services?
so, that's a great question. Can they be used? Some of them. Will they be used? Who knows? We hear a lot about the state rainy day fund, and people say, well, you got $1.3 billion in the state rainy day fund. It's a rainy day. Can't we use that money? And the answer is no. That money is in what is effectively a lockbox. There's only 3 ways you can get money out of it. You can have a revenue failure in the current year. God forbid that we have that. You can have a year-over-year decline in revenues. So if we make a projection that says we're actually going to have a smaller budget next year because the economy is in such bad shape, then we can spend it, right? That leaves you with 1 quarter of it. And that final quarter requires the governor to declare an emergency has occurred, in which case then we can tap that money. So that money is not really accessible to us. But the money in the Roads Trust, $600 million there. There's a pool of money called FMAP dollars that we have been adding to that's part of Medicaid and expansion that we could use, but we would have to put back, if that makes sense. That's money that's already spoken for, required to be spent on Medicaid, but we could use a piece of it as long as we figure out how to put it back. There's a revenue stabilization fund out there that has $500 million in it that we could tap. There's a legacy capital out there that has $500 million in it that we could tap. There's a legacy capital fund that has about $600 million in it, and we could tap that. So there are funds available, but we cut personal income taxes last year, and so we're already kind of behind the eight ball. And if the economy goes south, we're going to be more worried about just kind of figuring out how to minimize the cuts than we are how to really kind of spend some of these other dollars on other important things.
Can I do a follow-up on that?
Yeah.
So Stitt seems to be trying to cut all revenue streams, and you're saying that the rainy day fund, one of the things is tied to revenue. If he cuts enough revenue streams coming in, would that
Trigger. So I don't believe so. That's a really, really good question. If the year-over-year revenue decline is a result of us cutting our own throats, does that money become available? The answer to that is no. We could still declare an emergency and tap some of that money if we need to.
It just seems like he has tried everything to get at that fund for the whole time he's been in office.
You know,
That's what I was asking, is he tempting to try and?
The reality is, with respect to the governor, and I'm trying to say this in a way that is not just completely calling him a. I don't think he really knows how this stuff works. He has been adamant about cutting personal income taxes in the state of Oklahoma. We have three primary revenue streams in Oklahoma. We have income taxes, which is personal and corporate. And if we get rid of personal, we will absolutely get rid of corporate, right? We have gross production taxes, and we have sales and use taxes. That's the three-legged stool we have. If we cut income taxes and eliminate them, we're left with two taxes, gross production taxes and sales taxes, that are heavily dependent on the economy. If we go into recession, people don't spend their money. They're still getting paid, many of them, but they're not spending money. And so we are going to be completely, it'll be really, really, really bad. You can take a look and see what happened in 2016 and 2017 in the state of Oklahoma when we had gross production taxes fall through the floor. Now imagine that without the buffer of all the revenue we have coming in from a stable source like personal income taxes. And the governor doesn't give a damn, because he's not going to be here. He's going to go move to Florida or wherever it is, you know. And so for him, it doesn't matter. We just get stuck with the pain.
Nice. Looks like
Anybody have any questions?
Chicken, any questions?
chicken. Nice. Looks like
Anybody have any questions?
Chicken, any questions?
chicken.
Chicken.
No? Okay, you're good?
Can I
Can we put you on the
ask
spot?
one more?
Yeah, definitely.
So with him trying to cut personal income tax, has there been any talk of like a new one to like make up the money? Has that been a discussion?
So the passage of State Question 640 in 1991 or 2, I don't remember which now, makes it extremely difficult to raise taxes. You can lower taxes very simply here in Oklahoma, but raising taxes either requires a vote of 3/4 of both the House and the Senate, or the people have an automatic opportunity to veto that through a public vote. So we pass a tax increase, you know, and say we decide to bring the personal income tax back up 1/4 point, and we only get 51%, you know, in both chambers. Then that would go to an immediate vote of the people to decide whether or not they agree with, you know, in both chambers. Then that would go to an immediate vote of the people to decide whether or not they agree with doing that. It's so hard that in the intervening, I mean, it literally was 30 years, not quite, so 91 to 2018, 27 years, before they were able to raise a tax. And when they raised the tax, they didn't raise back the personal income tax. What they did was tax shift. So we wound up paying more in certain kinds of taxes, more for gross production taxes, just a little bit more on the gross production tax, but more on cigarettes, more on gasoline taxes, right? So you and I paid a lot more in taxes. Harold Hamm didn't pay a dime more in taxes.
Of course you didn't.
And that's the thing, my Republican colleagues keep talking about every time we cut taxes in Oklahoma, we're ringing the cash register and we're bringing in more money. Respectfully, the way they do that is not by cutting the tax, because it doesn't run on magic pixie dust, right? It runs on tax dollars. What they do is they shift the tax burden someplace else. A very clear example of this. You may be young enough to not recall, but before 2018 in the state of Oklahoma, we only paid excise taxes on car purchases. We did not pay sales taxes, right? Well, in its infinite wisdom, the legislature decided not only would they tax us on the excise, they would also tax us on the sales transaction. So we're double taxed on vehicle purchases in the state of Oklahoma.
That's new.
Well, it is new from 2018. And then we turned around and we said, you know what, this is really punitive to corporations who want to buy vehicles here in the state of Oklahoma.
Not for individuals.
Not for individuals. We give a damn about individuals. Pardon my coarse language. But we were really important about those, or worried about corporate sales. And so in 2019, we changed the law back for corporations and said, you guys are exempt.
But not us.
But not the people of Oklahoma.
Of course
That's
not.
all right, we pay triple for the corporations, so we don't have to pay.
Yeah. So.
We got you, billionaires. No worries.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
it
you
looks-
look at all those people who are on subsidies, right? The reason they're on subsidies is because the companies they work for don't provide health care for them. In many cases, so there's a percentage of them where the corporations are just small. The companies they work for are small, and so they go out on the insurance marketplace. But for a lot of them, it's you and me paying for their health care because the companies they work for don't pay them enough, don't provide that health care benefit for them.
And still record profits year after year after year somehow.
Yeah.
But it's the cost of goods.
And we cut the corporate income tax in 2021 by 1/3. We went from 6% to 4%. And we cut the, yeah.
So we're going to ask one last question from the chat. Let's switch subjects here. Can we overcome the gerrymandering in Oklahoma and actually win anything?
I'm curious of this one.
That's a good question.
I was like, that's my 6 guns Wheatie in there.
Yeah.
Not in the short term.
I was good.
I mean, the sad reality is in 2026, there were 125 potential legislative seats that should have been on the ballot in November. 101, that's all of us in the House, and 24 in the Senate. Actually 25 because we did have one special election. But 70% of those were not on the ballot in November. The decision had already been made. Until that changes, we're going to continue to have gerrymandering. The most problematic part of gerrymandering, the way, never ever give a legislator a Sharpie and tell them to go draw. Right? You think it's bad watching the president draw, here's where the hurricane's going to go? Just wait till you see legislators behind closed doors drawing their own maps for, we like these people, we don't like these people, and they're getting in fights over this. I mean, it really is just...
Cherry picking their constituents.
Yeah, they're picking their voters, right? But the problem with that is that they draw these safe districts, right? These are all the people I know that are going to vote my way. Doesn't mean they're going to vote for you. And so you wind up with these partisan, witch hunt, crazy primaries where you have the zealots who show up and control. And so moderate Republicans have drawn nooses around themselves, right? And that's the practical effect of gerrymandering. What's the fix? It's a long-term process. It begins on October 29th when we have the ability to sign a petition to put to a vote of the people the opportunity to vote in every election. That's it.
Yay.
That's what State Question 826 does. Did I get the number right? I'm drawing a blank now for some reason. 836?
Yes.
Yeah, whichever. 8 and a 6 and another number in there someplace. And that's a shame. I'm talking about it on Monday night.
Just practice, bro. Just practice.
Yeah, we already do this in Oklahoma. I keep seeing Republicans talk about, don't California my elections or whatever it is, Californicate, or I don't remember. It's, something really, really dumb. And I keep thinking to myself, you realize we do this every municipal election. It's what we do today. And you don't sit around saying, oh my God, my municipal elections are just like they are in California. Nobody does that. The reality is, the state question does not take away the opportunity for a party to make a choice about who they want to support. What it says is, if we're going to have an election, everybody gets to participate. Because in the United States, elections belong to everybody. They don't belong to some nebulous affiliated organization over here. If the teachers union said, oh, by golly, we're going to have our own primary, Republicans would go, I can't use that phrase. They would wet themselves. Right? But it's no different for them to say this is a political party. Political party is no different than a union or any other. It's no different for them to say this is a political party. Political party is no different than a union or any other. If a bunch of churches got together and decided they wanted to have a primary, people would say, why in the world are we paying for that? And why are we allowing them to take other people off of a ballot? Right? So if Republicans want to have their own gathering where they decide who their preferred candidate is, more power to them. They can do that. They can pay for it. But if you want us to pay for it, we all get to vote.
Word. Love it. We're like, oh my gosh, thank you.
That's high honor, by the way.
I know, we're like, that's a high honor. The Humpday Exchange room. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for meeting with us and coming to answer our questions.
You guys ask hard questions.
I know, right? I was like, okay with this.
We got him to do it.
You gotta do this. Now he's
My
gonna go
fingers
home,
are
like, go
tired.
show your wife and daughter. They're gonna be like, okay, you're cool now.
Okay, you're cool.
I've never been that.
We do want to thank Representative Fugate for coming on. We do have a couple announcements for this weekend. Michael and I will be in McAllister for No Kings, and we're speaking at Rural Pride in McAllister. We have events here, so Organizing Okies will also be in Oklahoma City for No Kings. And again, you'll have to check Mobilize and No Kings to find where your local No Kings is. This is
22 in Oklahoma.
do it.
22 in Oklahoma.
22 in Oklahoma alone. So if you thought the first one with over 10,000 in Oklahoma City alone was something, this one's it, man. This one's it. So we're really excited about that. We're honored to be able to go and speak at the event and participate. And again, we will have Representative Andy Fugate on again because he is running.
I am.
And he's going to be at No Kings in Norman.
I'm at No
Oh,
Kings
that's
in Norman.
right. No
And-
Kings in
And for
Norman.
all of you who are attending a No Kings rally someplace, just remember we need to leave space for all of the disaffected Republicans who are waking up and saying this is not what I voted for.
Right.
The last thing we need to do is be attacking them or shaming them for their votes. We have a big tent, and we all need to be standing shoulder to shoulder in the United States because they're going to pick us off one by one otherwise.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And is there anything that you would like everybody to know, or wait, like if anybody needs to contact you, how would they go about doing that?
You can reach me at the Capitol, 405-557-7370. Feel free to stop by the office. I'm on the 5th floor in the North Hall. You can email me at andy.fugate and that's Fugate at okhouse.gov. You can find me on TikTok, and I'm drawing a blank on what my TikTok handle is.
Andy Fugate.
Something like that. I am also on Blue Sky. I still have my Twitter account, and yes, it's a Twitter account, not that other stupid name. I'm an early guy out there, so I'm actually a Fugate. And when we're in session, so from February through the end of May, I do a Sunday night live stream myself at 8 p.m.
Oh.
If you are interested in what's going on during the legislative session, I'll talk a lot about that. usually carve out about 15 minutes to teach because I love helping people understand what we do. And that's what I do a lot on TikTok as well, is I try to do teaching stuff there. So.
Yeah, it's important.
It's important, very
Mhm.
important. All
I think
right.
we're good.
I think we're good.
Thank you for having me out here
Thank you for
tonight.
coming.
All right.
Yes, and thank you.
All
I think
right.
we're good.
I think we're good.
Thank you for having me out here
Thank you for
tonight.
coming.
All right.
Yes, and thank you, Representative Fugate. We appreciate you coming in and answering some hard questions.
Great. Thank you so much. Yay. And we're like, yay. That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, we didn't put a plug in for Second Story. We should have told people to stop by, buy a book, get coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Facebook.
Yeah. Shame on me for not thinking about
They
that.
stayed open late for us, and we
Yeah, we're still on one.
Yeah,
we're still
I'm on
organizing.
It is a great place to have a cup of coffee, or this is Mandarin orange tea,
Yay.
which I have really grown to like. I've been here several times to get their tea, and step in. This is a traditional, wonderful, old-fashioned bookstore. It has the vibe. It has the smell.
Oh, it does,
of
doesn't
all
it?
the fresh
Yeah.
It
books.
makes me want to read.
Yeah, and there are a few things better than just curling up with a physical book in your hands. And the selection here is just amazing. So,
Definitely.
Second Story. What's the address here?
718 Culberson Drive.
718 Culbertson
Culbertson
Drive.
Drive.
Yep. Come on
Yep,
out.
that's nice. Yep, come on out.
Perfect.
Yay, thank you.
So much.
Oh, and thank you for